If I had to go from my 9 to 5 that I hated to becoming a remote closer earning 10k a month and then scaling all the way up to 50k a month again, or giving away my lifestyle here in Bali and going back to the UK grind in the next 90 days, here's exactly how I'd do it. But first, a bit of context, you know, this isn't all theoretical nonsense. I'm Charles, and for the past 10 years, I've basically lived and breathed sales. At 19, I was earning 3-4k a month selling real estate, and by 20, I was making 10k a month selling investments over the phone. I went on to close tens of millions of dollars and climbed pretty quick in the corporate world. From the outside, it looked like the perfect career. Cars, expensive dinners, watches, nights out. Despite being in my early 20s, but I still felt a lot of misalignment and disconnection. The long hours, the pressure, the rat race culture, it all caught up with me eventually. By this point, I had my own business, my own sales business, and I sold my shares to my partners for basically nothing. I lost a fortune in commissions because the life that I built didn't really feel like mine anymore. And that's when I dropped everything. I hired a mentor, I mastered high ticket sales, and started to rebuild everything from scratch. But this time it was on my terms, and I started traveling. I started closing deals from my laptop wherever I was in the world. My first long stay out of the UK was in Ibiza for 4 months. Then I made the permanent move to Bali, and I've been here for 2.5 years now with my fiance. And from that point, everything's changed. I've closed for brands like Shetty and Mind Valley. I was regularly hitting $50,000 months in commissions. And through building sales teams and training salespeople, I recently helped a trading offer scale from about 80k a month to $1 million a month. Today I train and place closers around the world, over 100 today, helping them build the same freedom-based lifestyle that I created through sales. For example, David went from running his own cleaning business to hitting regular $1,000 days.
The improvement and knowledge I've learned in objection handling, tonality, biopsychology has been absolutely fantastic, to be honest. So much so that within those 3 months, I've landed my first role, which I start in 2 weeks, where I can work anywhere remotely.
Rory went from working in a climbing centre to closing 14k deals in a matter of months.
Been placed in my first role and I'm absolutely fallen in love with the industry. I feel like it's pushed me in ways of which I didn't think I could do before.
And then there's Miles, who was doing 2 jobs when I met him, recruitment and security. And his best month in commissions was $18,000.
Even less than 18 months ago, I was working as a security guard outside of a nightclub in the cold in London, whilst also doing a sales job in the office every single day. And I'm now based in Bali. I've now learned such a valuable skill. I'm making over $18,000 every single month now through high ticket sales, working from my laptop. I've got my own office at home now, living in Bali.
But this is not just about the money. I ride a $500 scooter. The version of me chasing material goods is well behind me now. It's about living life your own way, without having someone else telling you where and when you should be somewhere, or dealing with the stress and complications of running your own business. If you work in a job that pays you just enough to keep you there, but you feel like you're living someone else's life and you want real location freedom, you want 5 to 10k a month as a minimum, and then scaling to 30k a month and more as a top performer, then this is for you. If you want to get rich quick, if you want to make money while you're asleep, if you're looking for results in the next week, and also if you're looking to make millions of dollars a month with no work, and you think that remote closing is just reading a script to people, then unfortunately this isn't for you. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact anti-sales approach that I've used to land elite closing roles without a degree, without a fancy CV or tons of experience. Also how you can transition from a 9 to 5 to becoming a remote closer in the next 90 days, as well as the skills that you need to break past 10k a month and hit the higher level of commissions, the 20, 30, 50k a month, and also how to land the roles that actually get you these commissions. But first, a quick disclaimer. This is not about luck. It's not about talent. It's about actually doing the work. Learning tonality, psychology, frameworks, and becoming a closer that business leaders actually want at the forefront of their offer. So if you're still in, let's get into it. So whether you're in a normal 9 to 5 job, whether you're in sales already, or maybe you're running a business like I was, here's what you actually need to understand about making this shift work. The first thing you've got to do is learn this skill properly. High ticket sales is not traditional sales. This is not just reeling off a list of features. It's not reading scripts, it's not being pushy. Think of it like this. Traditional sales is like driving a normal car, but High ticket sales is like driving a Formula One car. This is about psychology, identity, and transformation. You have to become what I call the trusted advisor. This is like a doctor or a therapist or a lawyer, someone who is genuinely there to help. This isn't a trick or a tactic. This is a mindset and a state that you're going to be operating from. To close someone on a 5 or a 10 or a 20k deal in 1 hour on a Zoom call, you've got to master a few things. The first is a discovery section that actually goes deep. I teach something that I invented called the staircase method. You're basically taking someone from like a surface level problem to a real emotional pain to the impact and the emotion behind it. Each step is going to build more tension and more clarity. So there's 4 steps to an emotional discovery using 4 different styles of questions. And this is the staircase method. The first questions usually start with the word what. This is where we turn vague statements into concrete facts. So we might ask questions like, what is it about your job that's not working out specifically? What do you mean by you want to earn more money? More than what? What's actually pushing you to want to leave the UK right now? This allows us to gain specific. The second style of questions are why-based questions. This is when we're probing gently to basically figure out the deeper why behind it all. So asking questions like, why is this a problem for you right now? Why do you feel like your income hasn't increased over the past 5 years? Or why is that important to you? The third step are how and who-based questions. This is when we start to quantify the pain. So asking things like, how long have you felt like this for? How much would you like to be earning? Who else would this change things for? How would it change things for them? This is where they start to feel the impact. We're bringing things like time and money and people who are important to them into the picture. And the fourth step, which is essentially like the bottom of the staircase, is the emotional impact. This is when the logical frustration becomes that emotional, I need to change energy. We might just ask things like, what's it been like dealing with this over the past 5 years? Have you given it any thought as to what's this actually costing you? Once you've walked them through these natural 4-step process, their energy will have changed here. So instead of being just interested, they're starting to think, I need to fix this. The second thing you need to learn is how to handle objections in a way that you're not going to push prospects in the other direction. I've developed something called the CARE framework. C stands for clarify. The first thing we're going to do is clarify that they actually believe in the solution. Once we've clarified that, we move on to A, which stands for ask and isolate. This is where we're going to ask questions surrounding the objection so we can actually pinpoint what the objection actually is. Because often when people bring objections to us, the objection that they give us in the beginning isn't the real objection. Usually behind every excuse, it's usually fear or logistics. And then once we've asked and isolated the objection, we move on to the reframe section. Now there's hundreds of different ways how we can reframe someone, but essentially what a reframe is you're helping someone to understand something from a different perspective. A perspective that's actually going to serve them rather than the current mindset. And finally, once you've made that reframe, we move on to E, which is empower with action. The last thing we want to do on a sales call is push someone over the line, because if you push them over the line, they're going to be looking for refunds, you're going to get cancellations. We want them to feel empowered and actually want to take this step. And if you can hit those 4 notes in an objection handling process, your close rate is going to skyrocket. The third skill is tonality and emotional calibration. I teach 4 main tonalities that are called the 4 C's. You have the concerned tonality, the curious tonality, the certain tonality, and the challenging tonality. Your tone ultimately carries the intention behind what your words are saying. And another thing that's going to be so useful for you to master is learning identity and limiting belief-based selling. This is ultimately what separates 5k a month closers from 20k a month closers. And this is where you're not selling features. You're selling back to a person, the version of them who they want to become. It's a little too detailed for this video, but let me give you an example of what that looks like, which will be applicable to this video. Starting now, if you're watching this video, you already know what kind of person you are. There's the person that's been collecting information for years, saving videos, saving courses, telling themselves that someday things will be different, but nothing ever really changes. Then there's the person who decides, the one who commits to learning a valuable skill and backs that skill with commitment and taking action. So when you ask yourself the version of you that you're actually working towards, the one that's living the life that you actually want, how does that person show up differently than how you're showing up differently right now? And what would they do in this situation? So that's an example of identity-based selling. Ultimately, the skills that you need to become an elite remote closer aren't something that you can just wing. I trained for 3 months before I took my first call, and I already had 5 years of sales experience and had already closed millions in sales. That's how different this is. Selling from a script is so outdated, and that's what 3, 4, 5K a month closers do. If you want to become an elite closer, you need a way of thinking and an internal process that you can apply to every call, and you'll never need another script again. That's the secret between elite closers and one stuck at 3 or 4K a month. Okay, that brings me on to step 2, is that you are gonna have to understand the markets that you're gonna be selling in. High ticket sales obviously covers many different industries, but here are the 3 main industries where all the opportunity lives. The first is online education. This is mentorship, this is coaching, masterminds and courses. This industry alone is worth 500 billion and is growing 20% annually. And this is where you're selling someone a transformation, not information. And guess what? Of that 500 billion, almost all of that is sold by high ticket closers. So just imagine you only need a very small slice of this very big pie to earn great money. The second is agency services. This can be things like marketing, media buying, or sales team. This is when you are going to sell essentially solutions to businesses that are going to drive revenue. And the third is high ticket B2B. This could be selling custom business solutions or consulting. Again, this is worth trillions selling to businesses with urgent problems that need solving. Each one is going to have different nuances, different buyer psychology, and different objection patterns. So you need to do your research and understand all of these markets at least at a surface level. Because if you understand all of them at a surface level, then it's very easy for your high ticket skills to be applied to any of these industries. And the third step is you need the right positioning. When I first started, I honestly thought that my years of experience would be enough to land me a role in this industry. But here's what you actually need to position yourself correctly. To begin with, you need to demonstrate that you actually understand the high ticket sales space. Not just I can sell. You need to understand how to conduct a real discovery process, how to handle objections, and the general flow of high ticket sales calls. You also need to show that you can operate remotely. This means being excellent on things like Zoom, being able to communicate clearly with great energy. You also need to build credibility. This comes down to all your online profiles and how you're positioning yourself in the digital world. Do you look like a professional that someone would trust with their business? Now I'm going to give you the 2 critical assets that you need in order to land high ticket sales roles. The first is you need a killer intro video. I'm so against just sending your CV out to businesses. You'll never land a role in that way. How you stand out from the rest is by doing a killer intro video. Ultimately, if you're selling in the digital space, guess what matters more than anything? How you appear on video calls. So sending 1 to 2 minutes, which is like a digital interview that you can send to founders, which is showing your credibility and your experience. Most founders don't even read your CV after they've seen a good intro video. The second is what I call a player card, because it's slightly different to a CV. Remember, we're dealing with the digital space here. So 1 page showing your experience, showing your credibility, and showing your skill level is all you need to land a high paying role in this industry. That intro video though is everything, because if you're spending 5-6 hours a day on Zoom, on sales calls, how you appear on that video is everything. Okay, the fourth step here is you need to be willing to start from scratch. You might have experience like I did. It was hard for me. I had my own business. I was used to being the boss. I was used to respect. I was used to basically running the show. But when I entered remote sales, I had to prove myself all over again and have an open mind. But here's the thing, it doesn't last too long. If you're good, you will rise so fast. It's my belief that high ticket sales, it's the fastest opportunity whereby you can go from 0 to doing 10-20K a month in the shortest amount of time. A few months of hard work and you can outperform people who've been in this space for years. But you've got to take the skill seriously. You can't just rely on past experience. Your ego will try to protect you and tell you that you already know sales. You don't need more training. Kill that voice. Be a beginner again, and it's the fastest route forward. Sure, if you're in a normal sales job, a 9-to-5 that's paying you enough money right now, maybe you're comfortable. But being comfortable is similar to that story we got told in science at school. It's like the frog in the boiling water that just adjusts and adjusts and adjusts until it's too late. Often, comfort can delay us from being where we actually want to be in life. And if comfort continues to control us, then we're just going to stay where we are, because it's not like life is bad, life is comfortable, but it's seeking that discomfort. And that beginner mindset is where the real growth happens. And the final point that you need to succeed in remote high ticket sales, and that is discipline. People like to romanticize the laptop lifestyle like you're at the beach every single day drinking cocktails, when that's not it. The reality is you've got to show up to your 5 or 6 calls every day, and you've got to perform like an athlete. And this is what makes it different. It often requires you to be a high performer in other areas of your life. Are you working up on time? Are you eating well? Are you working out? Are you working on your mindset? All of these things trickle down into you becoming an elite closer. Because for maybe the first time in your life, nobody's watching you. Nobody's telling you to do things. No one's telling you to be somewhere at a certain time. So you've got to have that internal control. But the difference is you do everything on your own terms. You choose when you work. You can basically choose what you earn in remote high ticket sales. I train martial arts every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I'm filming this from my villa in Bali. I just need to take my calls, and then the rest of the day is my own. That's the trade-off. Total freedom for total responsibility. If you can handle that, then this will change your life. But if you need someone watching you and deciding what every decision you take, then this might not be for you. The discipline starts from day one. Maybe that day for you is today. Maybe you've been spending a little bit too much time in the research phase. Maybe you've been waiting for months, if not years, for the perfect opportunity. But realistically, you know, if you committed to that first thing, that first opportunity that you came across, and you gave it 100%, then you probably already have the result that you're looking for. We all have connection to the internet, right? Pretty much every opportunity, if it feels right to you, if you take massive action and commit 100% and have discipline, then you'll make it work. Look, ultimately, you can try to piece this together on your own. You can try watching endless YouTube videos, downloading scripts online, and trying to work it out. Or potentially hope that someone decides to take a chance on you instead of the people that have gone through training and gone through mentorship. Or you can implement what I call my anti-sales method that's taken me and 100 other people from corporate life to remote freedom. You know yourself, there's only 2 main currencies in life: time and money. Successful people realize that time is limited. We only get so much of it. Money, on the other hand, is unlimited. It's an infinite resource. We can always earn it back. We can always get more of it. That's why successful people are always willing to invest their money to get back time. But what I notice a lot of the time, especially people that are like under 35, is they feel like they have so much time, but not as much money. So they'll end up spending years and years and years trying to figure things out on their own. But in the process, wasting years and years of time that they'll never get back. So you have to ask yourself what is ultimately more important to you. Starting investing in yourself now rather than waiting more years. For me, it was always more important to get successful young in life so I could actually enjoy it, rather than try to figure out everything on my own and finally reach success in my 50s. And that's why I'm always investing in mentorship. So we've covered a lot here. And at this point, you basically have 3 choices. Option 1 is like, okay, this is cool, but it seems like a lot of effort. And I don't know, I'm not actually doing that bad in my current job. Like, I'm kind of happy that you say that. It must be nice to be in that space, but I'm also like a little bit concerned, because you and I both know that you likely want to achieve a lot more, but you're settling and you're in a position where you're probably pretty sharp and switched on, and you could earn a lot more money and be providing an amazing life for the people around you just by putting in that extra bit of effort. Anyways, I don't think if you've made it this far in this video that you're that sort of person anyway. Option 2 is the people that are like, yeah, this is awesome. You're pumped up, you're ready to go and implement all of this yourself, you're going to go and do more research, and you can do that. In fact, you should do that. But I've been where you are, and you probably realize after a short while how long it's actually going to take. Look, we've covered a lot in this video, but there is a lot that I've not been able to cover, so that this video is actually digestible. For example, things like pre-handling objections and finding your prospects' limiting beliefs so you reduce the amount of objections, which, to be honest, is probably the #1 skill that I attribute to my success in this industry. Or how to actually find these positions, but even more important than that, how do you vet these positions? And even though this industry has been around for the past 10 years, online, it's still pretty new. So there's going to be a lot of questions that you're not going to have answered. I did this for so long. I tried to figure out online businesses on my own. And the only time I ever cracked it was by getting real guidance. My only advice to you, I guess, help me take that first step, was to ask yourself this question. What would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail? That on the other side of getting help, in 60 to 90 days, you would have a high-paying remote position. Would you take the help, or would you continue doing it on your own? And it's that frame, thinking, what would I actually do right now if I wasn't worried about failing? And that's how I always make decisions in business and in life. And then we're on to the third kind of people. You're the sort of person who is humble enough to ask for help. And let me guide you through this personally. Look, I've spent over $50,000 on mentoring over the past 5 years. And in turn, my best month in commissions only was $50,000. Look, if you're in a normal 9-to-5 job, if you're in the corporate world, if you're in a traditional sales job, the chances are you're pretty smart and you're probably very good at your job. But if you've had an idea in your head of what your dream life looks like and you've wanted it for some time now, maybe you've got to ask yourself why you're not there yet. And sometimes it's as simple as just getting that help, being humble enough to get the help, and on the other side of that, you can actually achieve your desired outcome. Within my mentorship, I help with literally everything I wish I had that 5 years ago, everything I've learned over the past 5 years in remote high ticket sales, but also everything I've learned before that, a full 10 years in sales. I teach you, number one, how to become an elite closer. I give you all the frameworks, all the objection handling, everything you could possibly need to know to become the best closer on the planet. So we start with the information, but second to that is the implementation. You can never become an elite closer just by reading things and watching videos. It comes from practicing objection handling, practicing mock calls, reviewing mock calls. That's ultimately how you get better. And finally, it comes to finding the right vehicle, the right position. I have a recruitment team that do all of that for you. They literally just find you the best possible roles in the world and deliver them to you on a silver platter. But I also show you how you can find these roles on your own, because I don't want you to just rely on me. I want you to have the tools, the skills, and the resources to succeed as a remote high ticket closer for as long as you wish. 90 days from now, you could still be in the same chair waiting for Fridays, or you could be waking up in a place that you choose, doing 5 or 6 elite calls a day and getting paid for conversations that change people's lives. The difference is the decision that you make today. If you're ready to become an elite closer, not a salesman, someone who business leaders trust, then reach out to me on Instagram. The link is in the description. I'll see you on the inside.